All right. Welcome, guys. Sorry about that. It took a while to. I was clicking stream on OBS and it took a while for it to pop on YouTube. But looks like it just came up now. So good morning. We have two games to go over today. Excited to talk about this two game slate. We still have some injury news we're waiting on. Yeah, the Julio to the Titans. Kind of surprising. I guess I didn't see that one coming. So that's interesting. But yeah, let's go over what we know so far. So let's see. Do we have any Embiid news yet? I don't think we've got that. They said he's a game time decision. Yeah, so we got Embiid game time decision and DeAndre Hunter game time decision. My guess is Hunter plays and Embiid doesn't, based on Embiid not practicing at all yesterday. So that's my take, and we're still waiting on it and kind of looking at the Vegas odds. Let's see, have those moved at all? It's Philadelphia -4 now. It was -3. Yeah. I don't know. I guess still, if I had to put money on it, I would say he doesn't play, but we'll have to monitor that because that will change the slate. Like, obviously, if Embiid is out, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris look great. And then, some value plays, obviously, look pretty solid. But if Embiid is in, then, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris are still obviously playable, still solid plays, but they don't look like, two of the better plays of the slate. So that's pretty big news, and we'll just have to monitor that for sure. Tired, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm up late making content, so I'm always up about till 2 a.m. making some videos. So yeah, I got the coffee. All right, so if you guys are just coming in, if you could leave a like button live stream, that helps me out a ton. Again, I'll be live for a good another 20 minutes or so here. So let's start off with Atlanta, I guess. Atlanta, probably my least favorite team on the slate. Trae Young at 9.2K. I think it makes for a good contrarian spend up. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, are you going to play Trae Young over, if Embiid is out, are you going to play him over Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris for cheaper? Are you going to play Trae Young over Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in a Game 7 must-win scenario? It's hard for me to prioritize Trae. Obviously, tougher matchup too against the 76ers. So there's a lot of downside here, but I guess the upside with Trae in a two-game slate is he should be pretty low owned. He should be pretty low owned. I don't think he's going to be popular. And we did see over 40 minutes from him last game. And obviously he is clearly the number one guy in offense. Will have the ball in his hands a ton. Assist numbers have been really good. He's been scoring the ball really well as well. So I think Trae Young's a good contrarian play on the slate to kind of differentiate yourself. Yeah, and congrats, Patrick. Shout out Patrick Bush. Big takedown last night. Congrats, man. All right, so let's move on to Capella. So this is one where it's kind of strictly dependent on Embiid. If Embiid doesn't play and the 76ers decide to start that small lineup again with like Ben Simmons at the 5 or Mike Scott at the 5, then Capella should be able to feast, right? He's a good offensive rebounder. He's gone for double-digit rebounds every single game against the Knicks in the Knicks series. So I would actually like Capella as a contrarian play. I don't think I could prioritize him still for an optimal build if Embiid is out, but he gets a pretty big boost if Embiid is out because I think he should be able to have his way against that front court. So, and Capella kind of tied to the status of Embiid. Bogdanovich and John Collins more just secondary options. I'm not really looking to either. Bogdan's been pretty consistent if you want 30 to 35 fantasy points. I don't know if that's really going to get it done in the slate. John Collins did dip below 6K, but still I still don't have a ton of interest. He's not been great this series. They're not really running a ton of offense through him. DeAndre Hunter is questionable. Again, I fully expect him to play with the knee soreness. He was questionable the last 2 or 3 games and he played. So assuming he does play, I think we'll get the normal 30 to 35 minutes from him. Obviously, he's not a great point per minute guy. More out there for his defense, but there's not a lot of guys in this price range that we know are going to play big minutes. And DeAndre Hunter, if he does go, I think we get over 30 minutes from him, which does make him in play for that reason alone of just the fact that he'll be out there a lot. Gallinari, I think, is an intriguing value play for GPPs. He shot 0-7 last game. I think the recency bias will lower the ownership on him. But previous 3 games, 30, 22, and 20 fantasy points. A guy that obviously we know can score the ball. He can fall into some rebounds too. So I think Gallinari is actually a pretty nice play here if for GPPs. Now, if DeAndre Hunter surprisingly gets ruled out, then I think that means a lot more minutes for Gallinari. Then I would like Gallinari a lot more. So, monitor that. But again, my assumption is DeAndre Hunter plays. But that's still, even if he plays, I think Gallinari gets around 20 minutes, maybe a little more if he plays well, which, again, I think makes him a pretty good GPP play. Kevin Huerter, 4K, it's just like a filler play, right? Should get around 20 minutes. Might be slightly better value plays in the slate, but he can still fall into like 20 fantasy points. Again, he's kind of like a do-it-all guy. Sure. And I just don't think we have to go to anyone else. Lou Williams will play the backup point guard, maybe play about 10 minutes, but it's just not enough for me to consider him even on this 2-game slate. So let's move on to Philadelphia. All right, let's see. Do we have any more news in the 76ers? Still nothing yet. So Embiid. All right, so Joel Embiid at 9-4. I will say this. If Joel Embiid plays and there's no limit for him, I love it. Like, Embiid is too cheap at 9-4 if he plays and there's no limitations. Now, the only thing you had to worry about, obviously, is, aggravating that injury. So, like, there obviously would be some risk with a guy like Joel Embiid. But, yeah, if he does play and there's no limit, like, I think he's a phenomenal play. Now, if Embiid is out, then we got guys like Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons that look like two of the better plays of the slate. You could pick one. You could even play both together. I think that's certainly doable on this one. Tobias Harris is a guy kind of be more carrying the offensive load, whereas Ben Simmons more the, obviously he'll still be involved in the offense, but he's more like on the defensive end plus like stuff the stat sheet, where Tobias, they're really relying on his like scoring, right? When Embiid is out, like he is the number one guy in offense. Bulls should play 35 plus minutes. Tobias is doing a really good job rebounding the ball, and Embiid's been out like 13, 9 rebounds. I think Tobias Harris looks like a really, really solid play here if Joel Embiid is out. And same with Ben Simmons. Again, Ben Simmons will probably get you somewhat close to a triple-double if there's no Embiid, just because, again, he'll have to do more. Should play big minutes and need him out there for defense as well. So with all that being said, I think Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris look like really, really good plays if Joel Embiid cannot play. Now the rest of the 76ers. So Seth Curry and Danny Green are more just filler options for me. They're both reliant on the scoring. Both should play about 30 minutes. Seth Curry had a good shooting game last game. They both do have a somewhat low floor, though. Like, don't be surprised if Seth Curry and Danny Green get you 15 fancy points if they're struggling with their shot, because they just don't do a whole lot besides score the ball. So, yes, they're both in play. Yes, they should play both about 30 minutes, but there is still a somewhat low floor on both those guys. We're not like we're getting them super, super cheap anymore. Now, Dwight Howard, this is interesting, right? Do they start him against a big front court against the Hawks? Do they continue to bring him off the bench? My guess is he would have to play more, but they don't seem to want to give him a ton of minutes, even though they played really well the last game. So this one's tricky. Like, if Dwight Howard starts, I like him a lot. I think he's one of the best value plays of the board. If Dwight Howard comes to the bench with this again, assuming Embiid is out, then there's a chance. There is a chance he only plays like 15 minutes. And if that's the case, you're probably not going to want him at 4.5K. But I would think he needs to play a little bit more against this bigger front court, like maybe 20 to 25 minutes off the bench if he doesn't start. And if that is the case, then I would like a lot more for value. So obviously monitor Embiid news. If Embiid plays, no interest in Dwight, obviously. Like that's pretty obvious. But if Embiid misses and Dwight Howard starts, really like him. If Embiid misses and Dwight Howard comes to the bench, there's a little bit of risk, but my assumption would be he would have to play more against the Hawks front court. But yeah, that'll be something we'll just have to keep an eye on. So Maxey at 3.9, I think actually looks like a really solid value play. 22 and 26 minutes last couple games. He has shown he is going to be a part of this playoff rotation. He's played really well. A good offensive player. And again, aggressive on the offensive end too. I like seeing that. Like, he's aggressive when he's out there. 12 and 14 shots in the last 2 games. Like, that's really, really good to see. So I like Maxey a lot here for value. I think he'll be popular. I think it's for good reason. The rest of the 76ers, I don't really trust anyone else here with Hill, Mike Scott, Thibault, Korkmaz, Shake Milton. They run a deep rotation. These guys probably play a little bit, but not enough for me to get really excited about anyone else. So let's move on to Dallas and the Clippers. Real quick, though, before I do, guys, if you could, I'll ask one more time. Leave a like button on the live stream. We're at just under 200 viewers and 47 likes for Sunday morning. Not bad at all. Not bad. Embiid warming up. Okay. Repetition shots. You think he'll play? My guess is he doesn't play. We'll see. We will see. All right. So let's talk about Dallas and the Clippers. On the Dallas side, I think my favorite spend up on the slate is Luka. And it's just because he's the do-it-all guy, Game 7. Like, he's got to be a little more aggressive on the offensive end if you guys watched that game last game. And I think he will. So, with all that being said, I think Luka looks phenomenal if you can afford him. I think there is enough value to get him in there. So, Yeah, I like Luka a lot. Like I've heard some chatter about Porzingis as the price point. I'm not doing it. I don't care, right? He's not involved. Could he have a decent game? Could he go back to somewhat normal self? Sure. I mean, I've tried it a couple times. I've tried playing him a couple times this series. It hasn't worked out. Could it work out in Game 7? I guess. It's just not something I'm going to look to do. I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. Tim Hardaway Jr. also feels a little bit too pricey for me. He's actually been their second best player on the offensive end. The issue is, again, the peripheral stats, right? And if he's not hitting his shots, the floor is pretty low, right? 6 fantasy points 3 games ago. That is a floor for Tim Hardaway Jr. if he has a really, really bad shooting game. Dorian Finney-Smith is playable because the minutes, right? You're never getting excited about him, but he's gone for 29 in back-to-back games. Sure, I'd probably give a slight edge to like Marcus Morris and Batum, though, on the opposite side at a similar price. Klebo stay away from. They're really limiting his minutes. Brunson, I actually don't think is a terrible GPP play. I would think we get about 15 minutes from him off the bench, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And you never really know what Carlisle's going to do. But I think Brunson is playable for tournaments. And then Boban, I think, looks really solid, assuming he starts again. 20 and 17 minutes last couple of games. So, assuming he starts, I think we get somewhat similar run. The only downside of Boban, I think, is if he plays really bad to start, there's a chance that he doesn't play at all the rest of the game. We've seen that a lot in the regular season. He started a few games, played one shift, and that was it. Even though I know it hasn't happened the first 2 games he started, but it's still, I think, a possibility. With other backup bigs, with like Cauley-Stein and Powell, good luck trying to figure it out. I think they'll go to more Cauley-Stein if the Clippers stick to the small ball, because when Zubac subbed out, like Powell subbed out right away. So it seems like Powell they would want when Zubac is out there, whereas Cauley-Stein, they're a little more comfortable against a small ball team. So I guess I feel more comfortable with Cauley-Stein, but you just really never know. You never, ever know with Rick Carlisle. And let's finish up with the Clippers, guys. So Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, I think both look pretty solid here. 9.9 for Kawhi. The one thing I'll say is 2 games ago they double teamed him a lot. Last game they didn't, and he went off. So do they go back to doubling him here? Not sure. So either way, though, like Kawhi and Paul George are both going to play 40 minutes. I think both look pretty solid. And would I play both? Probably not, but I think getting to one of those guys is a good idea on this slate for sure. Reggie Jackson had a really good game last game. I think that will raise his ownership. No, he's been pretty solid. 26, 26, 20. He's been averaging like mid-20s fantasy points besides the last game, one for 40+. Don't expect 40+ again from Reggie, but I think we get around 30 minutes from him. And at 5'4", I think he's a fair play for sure. And then Batum, Marcus Morris, I also think are pretty safe plays. Even though Marcus Morris shot 1 of 10 last game, 1 for 11 fantasy points, he played 42 minutes. Like, that's good to see. And Batum should also play big minutes. These are 3-and-D guys that kind of need out there. So, yeah, both Batum and Marcus Morris I think are pretty solid values. Rondo, more the riskier play. Minutes trended down on him. I think if Reggie Jackson starts off bad or doesn't play well, they will close the Rondo. We saw that a couple times earlier in the series. And if that happens, and we get 25 minutes out of an unknown Rondo, that could win you a tournament. Now, again, it's hard to feel comfortable about it because he only played 10 minutes last game, but I still think it's a possibility, right? That is still possible if Reggie really struggles, that they close the Rondo and Rondo plays more. And then, Zubac barely played last game. You never know. Maybe he plays more this game, but it just seems like the Clippers are dedicated to small ball. They don't want Zubac on the court. They don't want that pick and roll with Zubac, guarding Luka. So, it's hard to feel good about that. Terrence Mann, the minutes went down a little bit on him last game. Luke Kennard actually played a little bit too, but I just don't have a ton of interest in either of them. I think that's kind of where my interest lies, is really the top 2 guys, and then more of those, wings, I guess, and Morris, Batum, and then a guy like Reggie Jackson I think looks decent. And then Rondo I think is viable for tournaments, but not something you're going to feel really good about because the minutes trended down last couple games. So, all right, what do we got here? Any more news? Nothing yet. So we can get to some questions, guys. Got about 7-8 minutes left for questions. So throw them in here. You think no way Embiid plays? If I had to guess, I would say no. He didn't practice yesterday. That's not a good sign. If he practices in limited fashion or something, I would say okay. I think he's got a chance. I don't think he plays. I don't think he does. Capella and Dwight or Bogdan and Seth Curry for the showdown. I think I'd rather have the first one. Yeah, especially if Embiid is out. Now, if Embiid is in, I'd rather have the second one. But if Embiid's out, I'd rather have Capella and Dwight. Any Lou Will love? you're going to need something weird for that to work, right? He'll play probably about 10 minutes, backing up Trae Young. You're going to need foul trouble on Trae Young. You're going to need maybe like Trae Young to roll an ankle, or you're going to need something weird like that, right? You're going to need like a random injury or like foul trouble for that to work, because other than that, like, he's going to play 10 minutes. Now, could he come out and shoot 4-4 from 3 in 10 minutes? Possible. It's just, I would rather get to other value in the slate. So, no, not a ton of interest in Lou. Thoughts on Ben Simmons, Curry, Kawhi, Batum, Capella, Jackson, Morrison, Maxey? Okay, so you're going a little bit more balanced. Again, I think the Capella play is a nice tournament play if Embiid is out, because I think he'll be able to have his way on the boards. If Embiid's out, Young and Gallo, or Capella and Collins. I think I would actually rather have the first one. I like the upside a lot more on Trae versus Capella. And then I think Gallo can somewhat match Collins, or get somewhat close. So, yeah. What two if Embiid is out? Tobias, George, Kawhi. So what I would do would be I would play Tobias and then pick one of the Clippers. I don't really have a super strong take in Kawhi versus Paul George. Again, I think Kawhi has a slightly higher floor. My one concern with Kawhi, though, is I think they might go back to doubling him, because that worked 2 games ago. Whereas George is cheaper, but he also has a little bit of a lower floor. So, like, what I would do would be I would play Tobias and one of the Clippers guys. Doubt Embiid plays. I don't think he plays either. Boban or Dwight better. So, if Dwight Howard starts and Embiid is out, I actually like Dwight Howard better, because I think if he starts, he probably plays 25-ish minutes, maybe a little bit more. Now, if Embiid is out and Dwight doesn't start, then I think I give a slight edge to Boban, because he's cheaper, and I think both might play similar minutes, about 15 to 20. Yeah. Cheap value options. I think Boban, I think is a clear value if he starts again. And then, Dwight Howard, obviously, if there's no Embiid. You do have some decent options kind of in that cheap range. DeAndre Hunter is someone you could look to, assuming he plays. You got Batum and Morris. I think both look pretty solid. Under 4K, Brunson's a viable tournament play. I think Maxey looks pretty decent. So there actually is some value for sure on the slate that you can look to. Let's see. Ford, 4,800 or lower. All right, so it's probably going to be one of those Clippers guys. Yeah, so Batum's at 48. I would go Nick Batum, because I think he plays 35 minutes. Kind of a do-it-all guy. Yeah, I like Batum. Kawhi and Dwight or Tobias and THJ. Already have Paul George. I guess the second one then, if you already have Paul George, and just hope that Tim Hardaway Jr. hits the shots. If Embiid plays, how much does it affect your interest in Capella? I wouldn't play Capella if Embiid plays. I don't like playing centers against Joel Embiid, and Clint Capella's not cheap, right? He's almost 8K. I wouldn't play Capella against Embiid. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Max looks pretty good. You're thinking Embiid plays. We'll see. Why Rondo only got 10 minutes? He played really bad. And Reggie Jackson was lighting it up. So I don't think they want to play Rondo and Reggie a lot together. You don't see why Embiid sits. Okay. My argument for that would be he didn't practice at all yesterday. The quotes were not positive about Joel Embiid. So with all those things being said, that's the reason I think there's a chance he doesn't play. Danny Green or DeAndre Hunter. I don't love either. Hunter, low usage guy, dealing with the knee soreness. Danny Green, super reliant in scoring. Upside wise, I think there's a better chance Danny Green has an upside game than Hunter, but he's got to hit his shots. So if you're going for the upside, go Danny Green and just hope he hits his threes. Trying to get Luka in what values like besides Maxey and Boban. Kind of just went over. I think those Clippers wings look pretty solid. Reggie, if you consider him a value, that's kind of where I'm looking. Herder or Rondo. For GPPs, the safer option is Herder, because I think Herder, or is that Hunter you said? Hunter or Rondo? Okay, Hunter. So, yeah, safer option is definitely Hunter. Assuming he plays, he should get over 30 minutes. Lower usage guy, though, and there's still a chance he can go for under 20 fantasy points. Whereas Rondo might only play 10 to 15 minutes, so he's super high risk, high reward. Safe option is Hunter. Depends on your risk tolerance. I think Rondo is an interesting way to get different in this 2-game slate because I still think that there's a possibility he closes if Reggie really struggles. Because we saw that, right? We saw that early in the series, Rondo closing games. Trae Young, Maxey, Green, Morris, Boban, Simmons, Kawhi, and Jackson. Okay, yeah, I have no issue with it. Hardaway and Cauley-Stein or Morris and Mann. Well, I don't want to play Mann. I guess this first one then. I would rather play, if I'm going to play one of those bad plays, I'd rather play Cauley-Stein. All right, Ben Simmons, Maxey, Tobias, Gallinari, Howard, Reggie, Collins, Paul George. A little bit too much exposure to the first game. If Embiid is in, do you fade all 3 76ers guys? No. If Embiid is in and there's no limit, I'm playing Embiid. Embiid at 9.4 is too cheap if he's not limited, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. I would still have interest in Tobias and Ben Simmons too. So, if Embiid is in and you don't want to play Embiid, maybe you still get to one of Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. Batum or Morris, I think that's basically a coin flip, right? They're 3-and-D guys that, they're basically the same player. So that'll leave up to you. I think Morris might be slightly more popular, so I guess for that reason I'll slight edge to Batum. Luka, Maxey, Batum, Harris, Boban, Paul George, Gallinari, and Morris. Yeah, I think that looks pretty solid. You like Reggie. Should play about 30 minutes. Fair play. Might be a little bit over-owned after the last game, but yeah, I think his role is pretty secure on the team. Dorian Finney-Smith and Marcus Morris. I think a slight edge to Morris. All right, so Embiid you got Embiid starting? Okay, so let's see. Is there a limit for Joel Embiid? We'll start. So that'll be something we'll have to keep an eye on is if there's a limit. If there's no limit, I love Embiid. Yeah, he's 9.4K, right? So assuming no limitations, assuming he plays normal minutes, that is too cheap for Joel Embiid. So with that being said, obviously now I have no interest in Capella. I think that's downgrade to Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. Not saying to get them out of your lineups, but Embiid is now the guy for me if there's no limit. Embiid is my favorite play if there's no limitations. That's, again, do you want to take the risk on a banged-up Joel Embiid? We'll see. We will see. But we're up to coming up to time here, guys, so I'll stay on for another minute to get some questions. But, yeah, Embiid troll game. I'm honestly a little bit surprised. A little bit surprised based on everything we saw with news. People were not optimistic about him playing. He didn't practice at all yesterday. Those signs led me to believe he wasn't playing, but, yeah, he's in. Yeah, Maxey still should get about 20 minutes. Super risky for him. Yeah, so if you don't want to take that risk, then you can just avoid the 76ers. No interest in Dwight. Zero interest. Do not play Dwight Howard unless you think that unless you think he aggravates the injury. You could play that aspect of it and just and play for that. Or you think Embiid gets really limited. Hunter is out. Okay, well, that is 2 pieces of news I wasn't expecting because I thought Hunter would be in and I thought Joel Embiid would be out. So, take the L on both those for me. DeAndre Hunter being out, that changes things a lot, actually. So starting lineup's still going to be Trae, Capella, Biden, and Collins. But with Hunter out, my guess is either Herter or Gallinari that moves in. I would think it's Herter because we've seen that in previous games that Kevin Herter starts. So now I actually have a good amount of interest in Herter and Gallinari for value. I guess they better not do something dumb like this and throw Tony Snell or Solomon Hill. Please don't do that. That would actually tilt me if they throw a Solomon Hill or Tony Snell because obviously those are guys we don't want to play, right? They're terrible point per minute guys. But if they move a Herter or a Gallinari in there, then I like whoever starts, and I do think there's probably a little more minutes for guys like Gallo and Herter too. So, yeah, that's 2 pieces of news I wasn't expecting. I really thought it would go the other way in both. So, just monitor the starting lineup, guys. But that's gonna do it for me. Appreciate you guys coming to check out the stream. I'll be back here tomorrow. We got a 2-gamer, I think, on Monday. So good luck. Enjoy these games, and just keep an eye on the starting lineups, and keep an eye again. Limit Embiid. Keep an eye on that if there's a limit, and keep an eye on the Hawks starting lineup. But that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go stream for Patreon. Again, appreciate all the support, guys. And I'll see you all back here tomorrow.